If you've ever wondered what event hosts really think when your pitch hits their inbox, this episode is for you. In this episode, you're going to hear directly from the decision makers themselves about what makes them say yes and what finds your pitch in the no pile. Welcome back to the Layli Emadi podcast. I am so excited about today's episode because it's a little bit different. As part of my Sought After Speaker System course, I have been interviewing event hosts about what they're really looking for when it comes to speaker selection, as well as a whole host of other topics that we talk about when it comes to working with speakers. And inside the course, you'll be able to find the full in-depth conversations with each event host themselves. But for today, I have pulled together some of the best highlights for you here on the podcast. Now, this episode is all about applications and pitches, what hosts are looking for, what makes them stand out, what makes immediate yeses, immediate nos, and you're going to hear from several different incredible hosts who have received countless pitches and applications, and their insight is so valuable. I am so excited for you to get a hold of all of the things they have to share. If you want to land more speaking gigs in your business, this episode is exactly a must listen for you. Let's go ahead and dive in. In this conversation, I'm chatting with Elizabeth Henson of the Elevate and Inspire conference. I would love to know any additional advice as a host in particular who reviews pitches and gets people probably, I don't know if you're like me, but constantly being like, if you need a speaker, let me know. What advice would you give to someone who's hoping to speak at your event or any event one day? And what can they be doing or should they be doing right now to get on your radar for that next time?
Yeah, that's such a good question. And my biggest piece of advice is people need to understand that finding great speakers is not a pain point, right? It's not a pain point for you to find great speakers. It's not a pain point for me to find speakers. It's not a pain point for me to find great podcast guests. So they need to really be thinking about that when they write their pitch on, I'm not actually solving a problem for this person. I am just trying to get my face in front of their audience. So how can I show up with a really good give? What's in it for them, right? And I'm such a warm-hearted, loving person, but for real, what's in it for me, right? And the biggest advice I can give people is if they want to be on your stage, they need to be in your community, in your membership, setting up a coffee chat with you. They need to actually know you. And I know that's true for my event because it's so co-created. I mean, it is literally created with the members of my program. So of course, they are all going to be first in line to speak, because we're kind of speaking on this overarching mission of what we do, which is we help people do what they love and make a living doing it. So it's I want people, like you said, that are already in that ecosystem. And when I do choose somebody from outside, it's usually a referral. And it's somebody who really fits the vibe. I always have them on my podcast first to make sure that I feel like their energy is good, their speaking is good, my people can get to know them before they come. And that's not to say this is an exclusive club, but it's it's just not a pain point. Finding great speakers just isn't a pain point. Now, I'm not going after Mel Robbins and the big name people. It's very different. Right. Somebody who is wanting to attract those big name speakers, that might be different to them. Maybe it is a little bit more of a pain point. But for me, it's more about finding the right energy for the room so that my people are getting the most out of it.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I love that you mentioned getting people on and seeing how you interact and seeing how they show up and seeing how they speak. Because in the past, I typically will go through the process. And for my own events, I've had people who I've never had speak for me come and speak for me. It's nice. That's a nice idea to kind of have that first step of let's see how this goes. Because it's not that it's I love that you said it's not an exclusive club. One question we got submitted a ton was some variation of the question is it just friends asking friends? And I haven't seen that really in any of the host interviews. I have seen people who have built relationships with peers, but it's not calling up your random bestie and being come on over. It's somebody who's great at their job and who you can trust and who you know will deliver. And I think if you can build that trust through an application or through a podcast or whatever, that's a great stepping stone.
Yeah. And I can see how it does seem that way. I actually was making jokes about that recently about, I applied to speak somewhere and I was like, this is one of those situations where I was like, I am overqualified for this room. Everyone's telling me this is a good opportunity for me. And, I didn't get it. And I was like, not butthurt, but very curious. And then I'm
Yeah.
like, it looks like she picked all her friends. Right. And I'm like,
Yeah.
but Liz, that's exactly what you do. Right. But it's like you said, it's not because they're my
Yeah.
friends. It's
Yeah.
because the trust is built. It's because I know they have the heart to give, that their intentions are in the right place. And I just know what they're going to bring to the room. And when I do bring
Yeah.
in someone that I've never met, this year I brought in Tess, who's like a financial coach. Never met her before, but I had her on the podcast. I was like, oh, she's going to be awesome. And,
Yeah.
it was a great fit. So there's a little bit of pre-qualifying that we do, but at the end of the day, it's like, it's not because they're my friends. It's like because that
Right.
trust and rapport is there. And everyone should be doing
Mhm.
that regardless. They should be getting in communities and meeting people and building those relationships. And if you can't find the stage to be on, like, build your own. My speaking career only is what it is because I've built my own stage. Like, end of story.
That perspective from Elizabeth really highlights how much trust and community matters in speaker selection. Now, let's hear from Jordan Gill, who leans more heavily on applications in her process, and you'll notice she takes them very seriously. You said you saved a few for invitations with your speaker lineup. I love that. The question I was going to ask was like the percentage of speaker lineup, cold pitches versus personal invitations or referrals. It sounds like it's mostly application with like a few invitations.
Yeah. Mine is pretty heavy on applications. The reason being, which Laylee and I have in common, having moved and been in different spaces, and what that feels like when it's just like, you just want to be picked, you want to belong, you want to be chosen. And I think so often in the speaking industry, it is who you know. So, and I'm not saying anything new or groundbreaking with that. And there's nothing wrong with that. And I actually 100% understand why people do that, because it's scary to put yourself out there and say, okay, I like this application, but like, also, who is this person? Like, do they like fully align with my values? Like, if people are going to work with them, are they going to be, again, what I expect them to be? And so, applications can be really scary, but the, I don't know, 14-year-old Jordan inside, I guess, is just like, I bet there's like really dope people who could speak and bring a lot of value, and I may not know about them or know them because of just whatever. And so I want that opportunity to bring them in and allow them to be seen by me and my team mainly at the time. So that was really important to me about applications. And so, and I took them very, very seriously. I didn't just like, glaze over a bunch of them. Usually my team at the time would like deep dive, and then they would send me the top 16 based on the criteria they know that's important to me. And then, I would look at kind of the top ones that like intrigued my team, who also knew, my community. So
I like hearing the process too. Like that's always fun for me as a speaker to hear. And whenever I share it as a host, people are always like so surprised that I'm not the only one reading them. And in fact, similarly to you, I'm not the first one to read them. So a huge mistake I see, and this is just kind of like bonus for anyone listening. I don't know if you got this and like maybe your team told you and you never saw them, but like so many people would like write a message to me and keep it really informal as though because I am friendly.
Yes.
And so people would be like, Layla, you know me. And I'm like,
yes,
but they don't know you. And I haven't even read this yet. Like, don't do that. Treat it like a job.
That is definitely a big bonus tip that should not be overlooked, just because, like that. And what's hard too, if you are just like a super connector, if you are going to events, you're meeting people and you're then saying, oh, well, I know her, so of course she'll give me a spot. Like, unfortunately, that's just like not
how it works.
Not how it works. And again, I try not to have all of those biases necessarily at play. And I think, again, there's nothing wrong with having your friends on your stage or stuff like that. Like, that's totally cool. And just, again, how I wanted my events to be was I wanted there to be a mix of like, oh, like I've never heard of this person, I'm really intrigued to get to know them, sort of thing, versus okay, I've seen them at every event that I go to and like seen the shtick, like done with it. Right.
Yeah. But it's funny because as we're talking about this, I've interviewed, you're maybe like the 7th host I've interviewed, and I've like put on my like little like CNN reporter hat where I'm just like, whether I agree, disagree, whatever, but I like that you're saying, there's nothing wrong with this, but these are the options, and your priority was different. And so I think for our speakers, it's so important for them to understand that each host is going to have their own priorities, and it's your job as the speaker who's applying to figure out what that priority is and speak to it. How important do you think a relationship is with the host of an event in relation to getting selected as a speaker, generally speaking, especially someone who's super connection heavy?
Yeah, I would like to have at least seen your name before an application. So whether that's like we've DM'd on Instagram, like it doesn't have to be like we've gotten coffee for 2 hours together. Like it can just be, oh, we've DM'd before. Cause like, I mean, I DM a lot of people, and like, I generally do remember names, or at least like Instagram handles. And like, sometimes I'm like, oh, okay. Yeah. But I don't want ideally the first time that I'm hearing about you to be the speaker application. That doesn't mean I like, that's like docked points by any means, but it is helpful for me just from a contextual standpoint. And I think too, I'm sure I'm not, if I'm the 7th person talking about this, then I'm sure I'm not the first. About like, there's usually a question or something oriented around like, oh, like, are you still planning to come? Or like, are you interested in the event at all? And then a lot of answers will be something along the lines of like, oh, like, I'll come if I'm speaking, right? And
they say it, they just say it just like that.
Oh, they're very like, at least mine have been, and I'm a very direct person, so I'm like, all right, at least
they're being honest.
I would just like to know, versus just like, fluffing marshmallows up my butt or something. Like, I would rather you just like be upfront. So, but at the same time, if that truly is your stance, like I would suggest you not even applying to the events, like, because I just think about, like, again, I've spoken actually a lot this year, the most I ever have in a year. And all of the events were events that I would have attended.
Yeah.
Like and I think that that's a really important piece. Like, don't just go and because you just see all the applications out there, you're just going to like wing it. And it's like a numbers game.
Yeah.
At least I can like read through that pretty easily, and my team can read through that pretty easily, because there's just no thought and no connection to the application. It's just like, of course I'm going to speak. Like, I'll share this thing and it'll be cool and your audience will love it and everyone will love it. And it's like, I mean, okay, it's just dry.
Jordan brought up some excellent points about applications and how important it is to build a genuine connection first. Next up is Christina Olivarez of Hustle and Socialize Conference, who takes a more structured approach, even using a point system and requiring video submissions. Here's how she breaks it all down. When you are looking at pitches from somebody you don't know, let's say it is a referral or it's somebody who's just like cold pitching you, as a host, what stands out to you? What makes you say like, this is an easy yes, or this is like an easy no?
I use a point system. So I grade, and I've used, I think the added bonus of ChatGPT coming out has been very helpful, because I have taken.
Tell me about that. Yeah. So, what are you doing there?
Yeah. So you might get over 75 pitches. And what I do in my application is you have to send a video. So you're not just applying on a form. Like, I need you to send me a video, and I need to see what your body language is going to be, because I can go onto your social media and I could look at your stuff, or I could look at your demo reels or whatever, speaker reels. But like, I want to see how you show up just in real time. Right. And so the application is like, I ask, like, how many years of experience have you had, not only in your business, but speaking? Like, what is your mission and vision, and how does it align with my mission and vision? What do you really want to get out of? Like, are you coming because you want clients? Are you coming because you want to network? Like, what is your intention? And I'm really like straightforward about that, because I'm like, I know that certain speakers are going there with the intention that they want to sell. And I also know that certain speakers they just really want more experience. They just want to get on stage. And so, I mean, the application is very thorough, but what I've done in the past is I created like a point system, and I've taken it into ChatGPT. I download all of the responses, and I tell Chat, like, based off of this criteria, I need you to start just eliminating a little bit for me to get really tighter. And it kind of categorizes it in like, you know, these are the people that are like your upcoming speakers. These are the people that are advanced. These are the people that, you know, maybe they're just looking at that. And what I kind of also focus on is, if I can see, because again, formats are different. A panel and a fireside is going to be very similar to if you were on a podcast. Yeah. So if I could go onto a podcast and I could like already listen to it for free, no. Right. So if it's already on a podcast, if your session is something I could like totally Google and find on YouTube, no. And then on the breakout side, I really look at like how animated you are. Do you command a room? Are you able to not only teach something, but I don't like, I've gone to so many events where it's like panel, or we go in a breakout session and we're sitting down. We don't have time to sit down for 8 hours. Like, that is crazy. So I'm like, are they able to take this and create something that's very tangible, that allows the audience to experience something? And I think that's what really gets me to a hell yes versus a hell no. It's like, oh wait, if I can go and Google this and find a podcast, or like one time I've had competing topics where people have pitched the same topic. And oddly enough, it was on podcasting. And yeah, it was on podcasting. And the way I kind of critiqued it was, okay, I also do like beginner, intermediate, advanced. So are you pitching?
Ask that, or
yes. Okay. In the application. In the application, I want to know if your session is in the intermediate or advanced, because your sessions will also dictate the audience. If I have too many beginners, then the audience is going to gravitate to the beginner. And then also, I have a lot of people who pitch mindset. And I'm like, that's great, that's cool. But again, if I could listen to it on a podcast, I don't want that on my stage. And so I'm very like intentional. I go through every single like response, and I'll go on and I'll start having like, can I hold a relationship with you? You know, can I do that? And I think that's what makes it really beautiful, is it is people that come like, with the referral, it allows for me to already gain a trust, because if I'm trusting my colleague, Becca, who is referring somebody in her network, then that's already an in. And I think that has been helpful.
Kristina's process shows just how thorough some hosts are when it comes to vetting their speakers. Amber Housley of the Bloom and Grow Live conference has also used both applications and personal invitations, and she shares how she balances the two in her events. How do you go about selecting your speakers for your events?
Yes, I would say I've done a mix of both. So there's some years where I have done an application process, and I love that. I even considered that at one point here for the Bloom and Grow Live that we're working on right now. Just because sometimes there's people out there that I just don't know about yet, that haven't come into my world and can have a really great pitch and can have, you know, I want to give new people the opportunity that aren't in my world yet. I would say, though, majority of the people that do come are ones that are in my world. They've either been in my programs before, I've met them at other, you know, live event experiences. They're in my network in some way and have made a connection. And usually it's enough of a connection where I feel like I always personally vet the people that I'm bringing. Like, I want to make sure that they are the type of people that I want my attendees to maybe invest in, maybe as a next step experience. And so it's really important for me to have those personal relationships and already have those in place. So that's usually kind of what I'm looking at of when I'm starting to, you know, draw up my list and start bringing those in. And I think I will say this just right now, and you may ask this later, but, you know, I get people in my DMs every day that see the events I put on, because not only do I host like the in-person ones, I host virtual retreat experiences. Those ones are just led by me. And so I know when people come into my DM box and they don't know really what it is, what I do, or how the experiences function, just based on the cold email they sent me or the cold message. And so it's honestly a little like, I don't know if it's like, you want to say a mark against them, where I'm like, oh, like, sister, like, you didn't even like actually go to the website and actually check out, you saw the word retreat, you saw the word conference and thought, hey, if you ever need anyone, I'm your person. And I'm like, no.
And it's always that sentence.
Yeah.
Please,
Yeah.
guys, if you're watching this, listening to this, like, please don't send this sentence. If you ever need a speaker.
Yeah, that's what it is. That's what they do every day.
I get it. Like, I get it.
Yeah.
But there's there's more that happens afterward that you don't think about before you send that. So this is us just saying, like, think about that.
Yeah, there's just a better way to do it. Like follow the right channels, follow the right avenues. Go invest in maybe one. I have programs at all levels. Like, you can do something with me for like $59, right? And start showing up in my world, right? And that is, to me, is how you can kind of get foot in the door. And I can start to maybe take you seriously, is because I know you actually know what I'm about. And because I think of the speakers as a extension or reflection of my brand.
Yes.
So it's really important that I already kind of know you in some way.
Yeah. I love that you said that you view your speakers as an extension of your brand, because that's what came to mind when you were talking about vetting your people. Was, I think, a lot of times I get the speakers I work with as a coach, not like the people that I put on my stages, but the people that I coach will oftentimes ask me, like, how much of this is just like it's who you know, it's like a friendship club. And I'm like, I think it's less of about being friends and more about you're trusting this person with your reputation as a host, which is a very different way to, I think, frame that. So I like that you said that.
So powerful. So powerful.
Yeah. So when you were doing both application process and personal invites or referrals, about what percentage would you say you took from like a speaker lineup to take an applicant versus like an invite?
I would say, when I think back to when I was doing the applications, I would say it was like a pretty even split, honestly.
Yeah.
Pretty even split. Yeah. And usually I'm really also looking for speakers that I know, like, because we're all running businesses here. The type of conferences and events that I produce are for business owners. They are B2B centric, right?
Yeah.
And so naturally the people that I invite in to come speak, right, they usually have businesses, they're educating in some way. And so I look at as a business relationship as well. And so I hope that, when I give you the spotlight, give you the stage presence, that like, I'm also saying, hey, like, down the road, like, I know you're going to do such a good job on this stage that people are already going to like fall in love with you like I have, and then go check you out, go work even deeper with you in your programs and those things as well. And so when I do get speakers that don't have any offerings, like they're just a speaker, that's not as interesting to me, because like, to me, that maybe works well. Maybe I have had keynotes every now and then, like years ago, not really anymore, that were more inspirational focused, like where like the only goal was to bring a person in to like fire the group up, like to be motivated, to be, encouraged or something in some way. Right. So in that case, I'm not looking, that my attendees are going to have a relationship with them after, but for the most part now, like, I want that to happen. So that's important to me when I see like, almost like, I'm going to go check your business out when you apply, or even when I'm, bringing people in for my group, I'm like, what do they have available? So then I know if they want to go deeper with them, they have something that they can invest in with them.
Yeah, that makes total sense to me for the environment that you're setting up for your attendees, like needing it to be somebody that has that like quality education behind it, not just like motivation.
Yeah.
Difference.
Yeah.
So that being said, when you're reading a pitch or an application really stands out to you, what are you immediately drawn to, or what are you immediately just kind of turned off by?
I think I am very interested. I told you earlier, the practical thing's really important to me.
Yeah.
So I think like when I'm seeing a pitch, I'm really wanting something that's going to say, this is like exactly like the kind of framework I'm going to teach. This is why it's important for this audience. And this is what they're going to be able to walk away with. And so I think like those very concrete, again, like I can think of one pitch I got like on one of those applications years ago. And I remember like, I don't remember all of it, but I knew the title of it had the word fairy dust in it. It had fairy dust in it. And it had like a very like
Cute.
Oh, magic wand, fairy. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
It can it sticks out in my head because I'm like, this particular pitch, I'm like, this is, I don't even know. Like, I would not want to put this on my lineup of here's what you're going to learn. Like, that's so cringy, And that was, yeah. And so anyway, that's what I'm saying is give me confidence too.
Yeah.
I think I do like it when I can sense a authoritative tone, a confident, those things are important to me as well. So I'm looking for that too. And I'm looking for some kind of personal touch. Like I said earlier, kind of the DMs that I get. I'm like, oh, you haven't even been on the retreat page. Like the people who go and pitch me for the virtual retreat. I'm like, if you would go on there, you would see that's not a hosting experience, right? That's not that's not an opportunity for speakers to be on that. I'm hosting it the entire time. So it's just do your homework a little bit.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I love that answer so much because I obviously agree. Okay. The last question I have about selection is, does audience size matter to you, or is there any other factor that is something that stands out to you that really matters?
Yeah. I would say is audience size can be nice, but it's not everything. And I've had speakers that have small audiences. I've had speakers that have huge hundreds of thousands followings, I would say most of the people that I am selecting or bringing in are a mix, small and large. So it's not everything. It's nice. I do like bringing in those who have communities that are similar to mine that might have people, because obviously there may be the opportunity that some of their people may be interested in coming to our event as well. Yeah. So I think that's nice when the synergy lines up when I'm looking at things.
Amber emphasized how speakers are truly an extension of her brand, which I personally love. Now let's hear from Kristina Bartold of High Vibe Women, and she's got some strong opinions about what makes a pitch or application a quick yes or an immediate no. When you are looking at those new pitches or the applications, what stands out to you? What is something that is an immediate no or an immediate yes for you?
Yeah. I would say, so an immediate no, just flat out truthfully, is when the topic doesn't really have anything to do with entrepreneurship or business, or they haven't done a good job of really explaining the impact it would have on those women. I see the same thing with podcast pitches, right? We want to make sure that they're very focused, that it has to do with your conference in particular. And that's the number one piece of feedback I give people when people come and they're like, oh, why wasn't I chosen? I'm like, well, actually, entrepreneurial women don't care about this topic. You care about this topic and you want to speak, and that's fine, but that doesn't align, right? And so that's an immediate kind of no for me. And I do look for speaking experience, but it doesn't have to be I love it when someone has a speaker reel. I love it when someone has a YouTube video, or they have podcast episodes. That's so great, but it doesn't have to be a must. But how are you able to pull your experiences and be able to be because 200 would be a big first stage. That would probably be maybe not the first thing that I would suggest someone do, but I'd encourage people to do podcast interviews, or, they're connecting with other people. They're speaking at summits, they're doing retreats, they're doing smaller events. And then over time, I think you kind of build to that stage. And so I love to see the progression of how they invest in themselves. Yeah. And one of the biggest things, and this is something that gives me the major ick, I don't know if this is going to give me the ick. I know this is meant to be Q&A, but I'm going to tell you this gives me the ick, is when people apply to speak and then, I message and I say, oh, well, our speaker applications are closed, or we're already kind of past the point, or whatever. And they go, oh, okay, no problem, next year. And I'm like, well, why don't you come to the event and check it out? And they're like, oh, no, too far. I'm busy that day. Can't make it. If you're not willing to come to an event, you're probably not qualified enough to speak at it. That's just my perspective on it. But I don't know if that's something you come across as well.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely I feel especially for yours, which is yours is generally for entrepreneurs and business ownership, right? So the people who are applying are the people who should be attending. When I hear certain hosts say that, my instinct is to say, well, maybe it's not going to benefit them as an attendee. But in your situation, and honestly, quite frankly, in my situation, because I always say it's one of our things is that the people in the audience could be and would be on stages. So likely it's the same for yours, where it's if it's general entrepreneurship and business and you have an entrepreneur who's applying to speak, then it should be an easy, yes, I will come immerse myself into your community. So in your situation, I would say, yes, I agree.
Totally. And there are situations where if I was speaking at a real estate conference and I'm a social media manager, I don't need to buy a ticket to the real estate conference because I'm not a realtor,
but in this world, I'm with you. I'm with you on that.
And also there's like a really poised way to do that, which is
Yeah.
like, and I've done this like this year I had a baby and, you know, people would be like, oh, like, you know, like I'd apply for something and they would be like, would you come? And I would just be honest, right now I'm prioritizing speaking opportunities because I only have so much time. And I feel very good about saying that to people. It's not about the fact I don't, and I'd love to promote your event and like, you know what, and if I can make it work, I'm going to, but also like, this is what I'm prioritizing right now. And like, that's also okay. But saying you can't make the date, how are you going to speak?
That is definitely like an absolutely no. Like, no. That is rough. Honestly, that's just like, okay, we just caught you out. This is rough.
And I think it's also about being like a gracious attendee. Like I have seen people who show up who are amazing attendees and they put in like kind of a mid speaking application. And I'll go to them and I'll say, hey, your speaking application was mid. And here's why. So I'd love for you to revise this because you have an amazing energy in the room. And like the people who I've seen be the most successful speakers, because something else too lately, and not to go too off topic, but I actually rely on my speakers to find me future speakers. Like I go to my peeps and I'm like, hey, I loved having you and I want more of you. So like, how do I get those people? Who are your friends? And I get fabulous introductions from that. You'll get that like, you know, recognition, but also people like want to be around you and want to stay connected. So that's another piece of it as well for me.
Yeah, I love not underestimating the power of referrals, like even in a virtual world. I think as a host, I definitely look to referrals as like a huge component of our system of selecting our speakers too. So I love that. Kristina made such a good point about alignment and showing up for the events that you want to speak at. Lastly, Joanna Waterfall of Yellowco adds another layer, sharing why personalization and brevity can make or break a cold pitch. When it comes to like receiving a pitch or receiving an application, if somebody's like coming to you for the first time, what stands out in a positive or negative way?
Yeah. Well, I think if I was to get an email from a PR company that was a copy and paste that, you know, they're sending to 50 other conferences, I immediately am like turned off because that wasn't the community, that wasn't the fit for the community. And if it was, like, maybe I wouldn't be turned off. There was a few times where the name of the person that the PR company would bring was like, oh, I actually do like that person. But if it was, especially if it was a long email, there was nothing about who we were or the brand. I never liked that. Especially with cold pitches, I always enjoyed when I just got a straight to the point. Hey, here's who I am. I always use this as an example of like a cold pitch that I was immediately like, yes. Jess Ekstrom, who like now works with speakers. She spoke at Yellow Conference in 2015, our second conference. It's 10 years ago. And I didn't know who she was. We never had connected on the internet. And the year before that was the first one. So nobody was pitching me to speak at the conference. I was reaching out to every single person. And then the next year we started to get people pitching, and it was all like people would always send these long emails that I'm like, I do not want to read this. I could again tell it's copy and paste. You don't know anything about this community. I think if someone was relational, they understood who they were emailing, even just a sentence or two about why they want to speak at this conference in particular. And even now with my work at Flowdesk, you know, when it's the same thing, like we want to work with people who know Flowdesk and like Flowdesk, you know? So just showing that like, this isn't, even if you are copying and pasting some stuff, show like, well, this is also why I'm copying and pasting to you in particular.
Yes, I love it. The personalization. I love that you brought up keeping it really concise and short and sweet. And like, if somebody is interested, they will pursue. Like, do you look for any like specific qualities in a speaker beyond the topic? Social presence, experience, does audience size matter?
I think at the beginning of Yellow, audience sized mattered more than it does today. Back, you know, in 2014, it was such a different world. We could have somebody who had 50,000 followers on Instagram post that they're speaking at this conference. We would sell a ton of tickets. It's not that world anymore.
Not no more.
And yeah, that doesn't happen. They post they're speaking, cool, you know, on to the next thing. So I don't think that honestly matters a ton. What I always like to do as a conference host is have a mix. You have maybe we would have like total like 8 to 10 speakers because we would do a 2-day event. And I always like to have like 2 to 3 bigger names that would draw people in, that people had heard of and want to hear from. But the rest, to me, it was more about the value that they brought and creating a space where the attendees could leave feeling like they got value out of that. So I think it does, having an online presence is really helpful. So people can get a taste. So conference hosts, organizers can get a taste of who you are, how you speak. For a long time, I said I wouldn't book anybody to speak unless I saw a video of them speaking, because I had there was a few times where we would book someone who maybe did have the big name, and it does not mean that they are a good communicator. It does not mean that they are a good speaker. Learned that the hard way a few times. And so then I was like, I'm not going to book anyone unless I've seen them speaking. And whether that's on a YouTube video or an Instagram channel, just to get an idea of who you are, how you speak, what is the value that you bring. If I can get a sense of that, then I'm not caring too much about like how many followers you have or anything. Because really today that doesn't, it doesn't mean a ton anymore. You could have a very small following who are super engaged. There's a lot that's going on behind the scenes that people don't see. But I would say having an online presence is important, more to understand what it is that you're talking about, what the value you bring is, and just to kind of get to know your speaking style and your communication style.
I hope that this conversation gave you a behind the scenes look at how event hosts really make their speaker selections. Now, this kind of candid insight is what can completely change the way that you approach pitching yourself for stages. Now, you want to go deeper. The full interviews with each of these hosts are available inside the Sought After Speaker System course. And that is where I will walk you through creating incredible pitches, building real relationships with event hosts, and creating signature talk topics that make you the obvious and the first choice for event hosts as well. So you can find all of the details there linked in the show notes or at layleamadi.com. And I am super excited to see you guys on the next episode of the Laylee Amadi podcast. Thanks for tuning in to the Laylee Amadi podcast. If you found value in today's episode, it would mean the world if you would leave a review or share it with a friend who's on their journey to becoming an industry educator or speaker. Want more support as you grow? Head to layleamadi.com for free resources and more information on how we can work together. Until next time, keep showing up, keep sharing your voice, and keep leading with purpose.